SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්. SLT Mobitel Home Broadband සමගින් non-stop ගමනකට data බෝවන්.
දසනකාන්තී චූර්ණය සහිත ලීවර් ආයුෂ් දන්තාලේපය දත්වල ඇති ප්‍රශ්න 10ක් වළකයි.
Tonight, progress. Sri Lanka expects financial assurances from creditors after debt restructure plan officially presented on Friday.
We want to do it in a comparable, open and transparent manner. The shorter the time they take for them to give us assurance, sooner we can go to the take up and the IMF and start dispersing money.
Last in line. Developing Asia to outpace China's growth for the first time in 3 decades, but Sri Lanka only South Asian country with negative growth. Recruits. Malaysia cabinet agrees to recruit 10,000 workers from Sri Lanka. This Wednesday, the 21st of September 2022.
Vim Deara milliliter CA Smart Pack එක රුපියල් 85ට දැන් වෙළඳ පොලේ.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana 24's English News. I'm Andrew Bernard. Now, for the first time in more than 3 decades, the rest of developing Asia will grow faster than China, according to the Asian Development Bank's September update of its Asian Development Outlook 2022 released earlier today. The update highlighted South Asia's economic growth to be at 6.5%, while reporting Sri Lanka to be the only South Asian nation with a negative GDP growth rate for the year.
This will be the first time in over 30 years that the rest of Asia will outpace China's economic growth, largely due to China's prolonged zero-COVID policy. The ADB now expects developing Asia, apart from China, to grow by 5.3% in 2022 and China by 3.3% in the same year. However, the revised outlook slashed forecasts for developing Asia to 4.3% from 5.2% for 2022 and revised the 2023 forecast from 5.3% to 4.9%. The fallout from the war in Ukraine, more aggressive monetary policy tightenings in advanced economies, and lockdowns resulting from China's zero-COVID strategy were listed as the main causes for this downgrade. East Asia and South Asia accounted for most of the downgrade, with East Asia's growth being revised down to 3.2% from 4.7% for 2022. Taipei is set to record the highest growth in the region with a growth of 3.4%, while China follows closely behind with 3.3%. The ADB expects the Caucasus and Central Asian region to record a growth of 3.9%, with Georgia set to record the highest rate at 7%, while Turkmenistan is to follow with 5.8%. In the Southeast Asian region, the update predicts a growth of 5.1%, with Philippines and Vietnam recording 6.5%, followed by Malaysia reporting 6%. The Pacific is set to achieve a growth rate of 4.7%, with Fiji to report the highest growth in the region at 11.7% and the Cook Islands to follow with 10.5%. Meanwhile, growth in South Asia this year was revised down to 6.5% from 7% in the earlier projection. The 2023 growth forecasts were also revised down to 6.5% from 7.4%. In South Asia, the Maldives is predicted to be the fastest growing economy with 8.2%, and Bangladesh records the second highest growth with 7.2%. Furthermore, the update stated that the revision in South Asia was mainly based on downward revisions to India's forecast on higher than anticipated inflation and monetary tightening, and Sri Lanka's sharp contraction caused by sovereign debt and balance of payment crises. According to the ADB's September update, Sri Lanka's GDP growth rate for the year is predicted at negative 8.8%, while a negative 3.3% growth rate was predicted for 2023. As per the update, Sri Lanka is the only economy in the region with a negative growth rate for this year. The September update also put Sri Lanka's inflation at 44.8%, up from 13.3% as reported in April, making Sri Lanka the country with the highest inflation in the region.
The Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, said they hope to officially announce Sri Lanka's debt restructuring plan to creditors on Friday, following which they hope to have financial assurances requested by the International Monetary Fund to go ahead with the bailout facility. Dr. Veerasinghe added that the CBSL will ensure that negotiations with Sri Lanka's creditors are carried out transparently and in an open manner, as the country's ability to secure the IMF's financial relief hinges on the time Sri Lanka's bilateral partners take to announce their financial assurances.
Governor of Central Bank Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe delivered the keynote address last evening at an event organised by the Postgraduate Institute of Management under the theme Strategic Forum 2022 Sri Lanka's Turnaround Strategies.
Another important date is this Friday, 23rd of this month, because we reached the agreement with the IMF, I think, 1st of this month, and we did some background work with the advisors that we have appointed to help us in debt restructuring, the Lazard and Gilbert Chance, the financial legal advisors. With them we have worked a program, and the first step of debt restructuring is now we are formally making the announcement and making a public presentation, inviting all the creditors, external creditors, and we present this is our program and this is what we expect, and we together with the IMF will also be helping us to make the first step of that process, the formally commencing the debt restructuring process. That is where the role of international community is very, very important. When you look at the international community who are the creditors Sri Lanka for several years, obviously we have a large chunk of commercial credit, but we are issued in terms of international sovereign bonds to commercial institutions globally, and some of basically are held by local banks as well. And then we have bilateral traditional lenders, India, Japan, China are the main ones, plus there are a number of other countries. There are three groups here. One is the Paris Club. Japan is the largest creditor in Paris Club, and there are a lot of other countries. And this non-Paris Club key creditors are India and China. So those are the two large partners, the creditors on bilateral basis, and then large sovereign bond holders on commercial basis. For the IMF to be able to present their program to the executive board and start dispersing money, we have to obtain what they call financial assurances from our bilateral creditors, indicating that all those creditors collectively are willing to support Sri Lanka in the debt restructuring process going forward. So that assurance is the first next crucial step. And then we have to negotiate in good faith with commercial creditors that we are also seeking some relief from them, with an intention for them to be able to recover the relief they are going to provide in the short term, in the medium term, in terms of recovering the economy after this program. So that is the next part. The first important priority right now from international creditors, our friends and partners, for us to be able to get their assurance that they will be supporting us. The important statement that we are seeking from our bilateral creditors. That's the next step. That's what we are going to start. And we want to do it in a comparable, open and transparent manner that everyone knows what others are offered, and equal comparable basis we'll be offering, we will be asking similar relief from all the creditors on certain basis, and hopefully they will give us that assurance sooner the better. Then the question a lot of people are asking, how long it would take. It all depends on the hands of our international partner. That is where their role is very important on this point. The shorter the time they take for them to give us the assurance, sooner we can go to the take-up program to the IMF and start disbursing money from the Monetary Fund. And then with that as disbursement, there will be a lot of other investors as well as the multilateral partners like ADB, World Bank will enhance their support from that point onwards. So then what we hope, that is a crucial, important turning around point for us to stabilize the economy.
Now in Parliament today, the Samagi Janabalawege MP Dr. Harsha De Silva said Parliament should be informed of the conditions of any agreement the government enters into with the external creditors before they are inked. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Podujana Peramuna parliamentarian Mahindananda Alutgamage claimed that chartered accounting firms are responsible for concealing due taxes in their reports and called for the regulation of such firms.
We have asked for the agreement the government reached with the IMF since we are planning to hold a debate.
I will speak to the President today and ask him to table it in Parliament in his capacity as a Finance Minister.
Will it be informed?
Yes, I will inform.
The President signaled that the IMF document was not signed as an agreement. Yes, it is true. Reuters reported on Friday that the sketch of this program will be openly discussed with all the creditors. If the government is going to agree on writing off debts with the creditors, I believe that it needs the agreement of both the government and opposition in parliament. No one knows for how long this government will last.
මොකද මේ රජය තව කොච්චර කල් කියයිද කියලා කවුරුත් දන්නේ නැහැ. මිලියන 22ක් ඉන්න රටක
There are only 137 people who pay taxes above 5 million rupees in a country with a population of 22 million. There are only 665 people and companies that have paid income tax properly. We export 1.4 billion US dollars worth of tea, apparels and other items annually. All these dollars should flow into the country, but only $700 million is remitted to the country. If these funds do not flow into the country, a VAT can be charged as per provisions of the Inland Revenue Act. However, the Department of Inland Revenue has not imposed a VAT, and the central bank hasn't monitored fund inflows. Chartered accounting firms are the other group that conceal taxes. There are 27 firms, and these need to be regulated first. These firms fraudulently prepare tax incomes and send them to the Department of Inland Revenue. All state banks should pay taxes. All employees of the CB should also pay taxes.
විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ සියලු සේවකයෝ පේ ටැක්ස් එක ගෙවන්න ඕනේ.
මේ රට බංකොලොත් තත්ත්වයට පත් වුණා.
The country fell into a state of bankruptcy. A group of members in the opposition signed a proposal and handed it over to the speaker yesterday to establish a select committee and report to the parliament on how the country fell into an economic crisis.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට වාර්තා කරන්න කියන.
Now, a campaign to obtain public signatures demanding the government to repeal the Prevention of Terrorism Act will get underway tomorrow at 4 am at the Golf Face in Colombo. Organized by the Justice for All movement, the campaign calls on all members of the public to place their signature and to express their demand be repealed.
The request or the demand of the people of Sri Lanka, be they Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, Malays, Burghers, anyone, is that this legislation must be repealed forthwith, and the signature campaign is for that purpose. We started from Kankesanthura and we will end it in Hambantota around the 2nd of October, a mobile signature campaign as part of this larger signature campaign, and we have gone through several districts already. Yesterday we were in Kurunegala district, today in Kagalla and Gampaha, and tomorrow we will come to Colombo. And when we reach Colombo, tomorrow 22nd at 4 p.m, we will have this campaign conducted at the protest site at Golf Face, and this vehicle will be there along with many who have supported this campaign. This is just one demand, that the Prevention of Terrorism Act must be repealed forthwith, and the signatures that we are collecting are for that purpose, and we invite everyone to come in your numbers and show your opposition to this draconian piece of legislation and demand the government to repeal it forthwith. We will force the government by people's uprising, not just to repeal the Prevention of Terrorism Act, but to change the governance structure of this country. The youth particularly are calling out for change, and that must happen. And as responsible civil society personnel, even political personalities, we support that call for a change, and that change must come.
Now, India says the country began talks with Sri Lanka on restructuring the island's debt with India. The Indian High Commission in Colombo told Reuters news agency that it held the first round of debt talks with Sri Lankan officials on the 16th of September. The High Commission said the discussions symbolize India's support to early conclusion and approval of a suitable IMF program for Sri Lanka. The High Commission added that the discussions with Sri Lankan officials were held in a cordial atmosphere. Stay with us for more news on the other side of this break.
අයිනෝ පුතා හැබැයි යා ගෙදර නිදියන්නෙම අමූතු තැනක.
කාලගුණය කොහොමුණත් රයිනෝ නං වහලට සේෆ් තමයි මුළු ගෙදරම. Rhino cement roofing sheets. Then you know Rhino. I know.
Big 3.
Uber Eats මගින් ඉදිරිපත් කරන ආදරයෙන් අවශ්‍යතා ඇති අයට අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ පරිත්‍යාග කිරීමට වේදිකාවක්.
Welcome back. Now, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party leadership has decided to remove SLFP parliamentarians who accepted positions in the incumbent government from all their positions in the party and the Central Working Committee membership. The decision was made today by Chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, former President Maithripala Sirisena. In a statement, the SLFP said that the parliamentarians in question have acted against the decision of the Central Committee of the SLFP by accepting ministerial positions in the Wickremesinghe government. Thereby, parliamentarian Nimal Siripala de Silva, Mahinda Amaravira, Lasantha Alagiyawanna, Ranjit Siyamalapitiya, Jagat Pushpakumara and Chamara Sampath Disanayaka have been removed from all their positions in the party and also been stripped of their SLFP Central Committee membership. However, MPs Duminda Disanayaka, Dayasiri Jayasekara, Dushmanta Mitrapala and Shan Vijayalal de Silva will continue to remain with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. Now, the Malaysian cabinet has agreed to recruit 10,000 workers from Sri Lanka after taking the state of the country into account. Malaysian Minister of Human Resources M. Saravanan urged Malaysian industry and employers to support the government's gesture by employing workers from Sri Lanka to fill vacancies in sectors allowed to hire foreign workers.
Malaysian Minister for Human Resources M. Saravanan said the country's cabinet of ministers agreed to the recruitment of 10,000 workers from Sri Lanka after taking the state of the country into account. In a statement, he said the Sri Lankan government had submitted an official application to apply manpower involving a quota of 10,000 workers. Saravanan said the cabinet at a meeting on the 14th of September agreed on the hiring of foreign workers to help Sri Lanka as the country faces the worst economic crisis. He also urged Malaysian industries and employers to support the government's intention by employing workers from Sri Lanka to fill job vacancies in sectors that are allowed to hire foreign workers. The Malaysian minister also said as of 14th of September, levy payments had been made for 416,634 applications for foreign workers, adding that employers keen to hire foreign workers can contact the ministry's Migrant Worker Management Division or the Peninsular Malaysia Labour Department for more information.
Now, the Attorney General has informed the Colombo High Court today that the investigations regarding the fire that occurred in the vessel Express Pearl of the sea near Colombo port are still ongoing. The case was called before the Colombo High Court Judge Damit Totawata today. The State Counsel, who appeared on behalf of the Attorney General, informed the court that the investigations related to the case are presently at the final stage. The Attorney General also requested for a date for presenting facts before the court once the investigations are completed. Colombo High Court Judge Damit Totawata, who considered the request, ordered for the case to be taken up on the 23rd of November. The Russian captain of the Express Pearl ship and the 4 directors of the vessel's local shipping agency representing the Express Pearl were named as suspects in the case. Now, oil jumped more than 2% today after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial military mobilization, escalating the war in Ukraine and raising concerns of tighter oil and gas supply. Meanwhile, the US said it did not expect a revival of the Iran nuclear deal, which would keep Iranian oil out of the market.
Brent crude futures rose $2.28 to $92.09 a barrel by 7 a.m. GMT after falling $1.38 the previous day. US West Texas Intermediate crude was at $86.16 a barrel, up $2.22. With Russian President Vladimir Putin announcing he had signed a decree on partial mobilization, increased uncertainty over Russian energy supplies is speculated. Oil soared and touched a multi-year high in March after the Ukraine war broke out. The European Union sanctions banning seaborne imports of Russian crude will come into force on the 5th of December. Meanwhile, the United States said that it did not expect a breakthrough on reviving the 2015 Iran nuclear deal at this week's UN General Assembly, reducing the prospects of a return of Iranian barrels to the international market. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and Associates, including Russia, is now falling a record 3.58 million barrels per day short of its production targets, or about 3.5% of global demand, highlighting the underlying tightness of supply in the market.
Sri Lanka's nationwide inflation meanwhile rose to 70.2% in August, rising from 66.7% in July. The National Consumer Price Index, which uses data from around the island, grew 2.5% in the month of August, with prices of food group rising 2.1% and non-foods rising 4.7% from July 2022 to August 2022.
Releasing data on the National Consumer Price Index and the inflation rate for the month of August, the Department of Census and Statistics said the overall rate of inflation year-on-year was measured at 70.2% in August 2022. In July, the inflation rate was measured at 66.7%. The moving average inflation for the month of August 2022 is 31.3%. The NCPI for all items for the month of August 2022 is 250.4, an increase of 6 index points or 2.5% compared to July 2020, for which the index was 244.4. This increase represents an increase in the expenditure of 1,922.68 rupees in the market basket. With respect to August 2021, the reported inflation for the month of August 2022 was mainly due to the higher price levels prevailing in both food and non-food groups. Accordingly, the year-on-year inflation for food groups increased 84.6% in August 2022 from 82.5% in July 2022, and the year-on-year inflation for the non-food groups increased to 57.1% in August 2022 from 52.4% in July 2022. On the year-on-year basis, the contribution of food commodities to inflation was 40.14% in August 2022 compared to the month of August 2021. Contribution of non-food items was at 29.79%.
And that's all the news we have for you this evening. Join us again tomorrow at the same time. Good night.